there you are. Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining us. It is the Medley Show, and we trust you've been having an amazing week. Now, today is the third day of the week. Keep getting your diamonds. All right, so I am Marianne Ayana, and it's good to have you join us. On the program today, let me cite an example. If you are a newly wedded couple, you would be looking for accommodation. You'll be looking for a place to start up a beautiful family. And if you are a family already and you're growing larger and larger, you would also probably need a big space, you know. So if you are, you need a change of scenery, you would also look for an accommodation. So on the program today, we are talking housing, scarcity amidst abundance. You know the pain it takes when you're actually looking for accommodation and you're trying to like relocate and stuff like that. It is so painful. But on the program today, we have two amazing experts that will be telling us why we have such challenges in Nigeria and what we can do about it. On the program, we not only cite situations, we try to look for ways to make sure we get solutions that will work for you and I. Now, let's take our first feature.
Food, water, and shelter are regarded as the basic needs of man. There is no doubt that they are very essential to the social, mental, and overall health of an individual. Major cities around the world are characterized by a lot of human and vehicular traffic, with its frantic hustle and bustle, which is also experienced in major cities in Nigeria. With a population of over 200 million people, with just over 43 million housing units, Nigeria has a deficit of 28 million units as of January 2023, according to the Federal Mortgage Bank. While Abuja has a population of over 3.8 million inhabitants, its housing deficit is about 1.9 million, while Lagos has a housing deficit of 3 million units and a population of close to 16 million inhabitants. So, after all the hustle and bustle of the day, where do these people sleep at night? In places such as Asokoro, Gwarimpa, Maitama, and other highbrow areas in Abuja, there are said to be over 600 unoccupied houses empty for different reasons, while the suburbs around these areas are densely populated. This explains the traffic jams experienced when entering and exiting the municipality at peak hours. Some of these densely populated areas include Impape, Yanya, Lugbe, Dutialaji, among others. And these are where the many workers within Abuja reside.
In a town now, if you want to own a one bedroom, you have to pay 25-20 million. Yes, and if you are going by that, even averagely, is an assistant director cannot afford such a house if we have to be realistic with government job. Secondly, the major problem is land acquisition. When they wish to acquire land within the town, it's always so expensive. The best option is for you to go to Yanya, where you can get your 3-bedroom for 10 million, 12 million, you understand. Or you can kind of have an agreement with any developer of NTA, or you can buy your land 1-2 million, and you build your house comfortably, gradually and everything.
While the challenge of decent houses is of concern to the government, the private sector has joined in the solution drive. Today, there are over 50 housing estates in Abuja alone, with the least having 50 units. Construction of houses is no longer solely a government venture anymore.
There should be government policy on rent control. If government can do that, it will help both the citizens, the developers, the house owners to balance things together. Because if there is rent control, for example, they will say in Maitama, no 2-bedroom should exceed 1.5 or 1 million. It's a simple thing. You as a landlord will realize that they can ask your tenant at any time, how much do you pay for rent? And with that, it has exposed who you are.
On the Medley show today, we shall be discussing housing, scarcity in abundance.
All right then, so having watched that feature, I come to conclude that if you don't have substantial amount of money, you may not get the house you need. And we're talking housing scarcity amidst abundance today. I have with me an amazing person, I must say. Her name is Zulaya J. Baba Giri. She is the chair admin, National Institute of Architects, Abuja chapter, and she will be talking to us definitively on housing and scarcity amidst abundance. But before we go on to her, the phone lines will be open soon, and we would love, as always, we value your input. 081-1778-2020. It is scrolling on your television right now as we speak. 081-1778-2020. Now to my guest. Oh, I'm so humbled you're here. It's really amazing to have you on the program. Thank you so much.
Yes.
All right, so we just watched a feature.
Yeah.
Good. And like I said, if you don't have what it takes, if you don't have the kuza, you may not actually get what you desire.
Yeah.
We're not even talking about location, safety, or how beautiful they are. We're talking about having the money to get yourself a good place.
Yes.
My first question to you would be this. Why do we still have such situations right now in the country?
Okay, thank you for having me here. First and foremost, I would like to state that it's not a local issue. The UN Habitat had estimated that by 2030, 40% of the world's population will be searching for houses, right? So it's not predominantly a Nigerian issue. African nations are also having issues of housing.
True.
However, localizing it, first and foremost, if we want to domicile it to our locality, we have issues of land, right? When access to land is a bit tedious.
Okay.
And for that reason, you find out that developers for mass housing, right, have to inflate their prices because they have to procure these lands rather than to have them being, allotted or allocated to them. So that in turn increases the price for land, which in turn obviously increases also the land for acquisition from buyers, right? So another one is inability or no access to mortgages. Now, if our mortgage system was functional, you would definitely have people, especially civil servants, looking at our future. If she was talking about a civil servant not being able to pay, 25 million, which is very true. We don't have access to mortgages. In climes where you have things done properly, where they have access to mortgages, these are things that you pay with time. Right, so you spread it, and it will also help a lot of things because when you have access to houses or housing, it means that you're able to have you function properly, employment, whatever it is that you're doing, you will do it adequately, properly, So basically that is it, access to land first and foremost, and then access to mortgages.
Okay, so major challenges befalling people trying to get a house, like you're looking for accommodation right now, like you mentioned, but don't you think money is a crucial factor?
Yes, money is crucial, but and that is why, like I said, mortgages will help. You don't have to accrue much money in order for you to purchase. That's how it's supposed to be. You don't need to have, let's say, 30 million at a go in order for you to acquire a house. But when you have mortgages, what happens is it spreads with time, over time, right? And that would help. It will help a lot, yes.
Okay, so this is how my next question to you would be. In Nigeria currently, how do you think we can create succor for well, I'm still coming to your line of work because that is why you're here. Okay, so let me drop that. As an architect in Nigeria, practicing in Nigeria, tell us how far it has been. How has the journey been like? There has been changes over time. There has been increase over time. Also, we have depletion over time. From your standpoint, how do you think the body of Association of Architects, how has the journey been so far?
Okay, so the associations are doing their bit. Now, of course, Nigeria hasn't gotten to the point where they understand the need for the professionals in day-to-day building construction, right? Most of constructions are done by that involve architects or professionals in general are being done by the government, because it is the government that understands or are able to pay for professionals. But most Nigerians or everyday person cannot afford to pay for professionals. However, what we're forgetting is when you take up a professional, or when you request for the need for a professional, you mitigate or you prevent against unforeseen circumstances, right? So, and then you reduce costs in a way you wouldn't know, because the professional takes care of every single thing that is required, from the conception of the ideas, to how the building is going to be run, and also how, at the end of the day, post usage. So those are steps that the professional takes into consideration during the life cycle of a building or life cycle of a construction. So it is important that we look at the professionals, utilize them effectively. And from our own angle, we also have programs that we do with people, right? We tend to explain to them how, or a need for professionals and the reasons why you need professionals, and whatever. So so do you think, as coming from your standpoint, your expertise as an architect, do you think it's because we have inflation rate, everything is on the high side, it's super expensive? Do you think that's why we have architects build up houses that people can actually afford, rural or in the urban areas? What do you think? Okay, so I want us to differentiate architects and developers. Right? We have developers. Developers go in strictly to develop houses for people or for habitation. Now, architects conceive the ideas. They have been approached by such developers. Now, like I said, we have the issue of land, which is a problem for the developers. We also have issues of access to loan, which is also a problem for the developers. Now, because of these factors, the developers increase their pricing. And they have to also factor all these things. We have malpractices. Approvals are also, problems that we find along the way. All these things have to be captured. And at the end of the day, pricing increases. So it is not the architect that, comes up with a price and says, okay, this is what we want to, yes, this is what we want to cost a building. There are different stages to everything, and everything has to add up at the end of the day.
True.
Yes.
Okay, so my next question would be, for the masses, how do we try to, in the areas, the local areas, how do we try to build affordable, durable, sustainable houses, not the one that collapses, for people, affordable. I think that's the major key word. Affordable. How do we go about doing that? Okay, so I'm laughing because when you mentioned for the masses, rural areas and co. Affordable, like I always say, is relative. Yes. Now, there are. So let me go straight to your your question. There are avenues that we can actually look into that will help, possibly solve the issue of housing. First and foremost, I'm happy that we're having an incoming government, and I hope and I pray that they will prioritize housing schemes. Now, looking at I feel we should look into mortgage systems. We have the Federal Mortgage Bank. Federal Mortgage Bank should be prioritized, right? They should be given, I'm not saying they should change whatever scope that they have, but they should look at it presently. I think it was capped at 15 million naira or so. I don't want to use data, but I think 15 million naira or so for a certain cadre, in the civil service. But I believe there's an increment. I don't know how much, but they should also look at that scheme and how we can, use it to provide housing. That is one. Secondly, there's Shelter Afrique. Shelter Afrique is a medium whereby loans or funding are provided for developers, right? So this would also buffer or cushion the effect of increments, yes, in the delivery of housing. Then thirdly, locally sourced materials. Now we have the Nigerian Building and Road Research Institute, and part of its mandate is to provide adequate locally sourced materials that will provide affordable housing for the masses, right? So these 3 pointers are, I think, or I believe, are avenues where we can look into going forward to see how we can mitigate against this menace called housing deficit. Thank you so much. Okay, so you've heard it. We're still coming back and we still have a lot to talk about. But before then, let's take this feature from CAPSI on alternative housing. Sounds interesting. We'll be back.
For centuries, people have adopted various ways of putting roofs over their heads, like living in caves, creating tents, and other different ways. But today, a mixture of cement, gravel, sand, and water, forming building blocks and placed side by side, reinforced with cement mix to reach a lintel level, is a common construction practice adopted by many in building their homes. With the high demand for these modern construction materials, it's time to consider alternatives to creating shelter. Nigeria is blessed with timber, which is an essential material in building construction. These materials can be used in creating dwellings. Homes made of wood create warmth, and it is an accessible material to work with. The proposed Lagos Tower in Lagos State is expected to be a masterpiece when completed. Architects say it will be the first residential wooden skyscraper in Africa. Despite the many advantages of building a wooden accommodation, one of the major challenges to look out for is fire disaster and termite infestation. People from rural communities typically use a mixture of materials such as mud bricks and bamboo straws for their buildings. These buildings tend to be more economical and provide a proper temperature throughout the year. A recent study has revealed that mud bricks can be solid and durable construction material for walls and floors, lasting for centuries without developing cracks. Another option for building is the use of containers. The primary purpose of these containers are for the importation of goods. From there, they are either discarded or put to better use like shelter. They are cut into desired shapes, padded to avoid heat and noises from outside, and an anti-rust material is applied to make it stand the test of time. Among the nomadic Fulanis are the bamboo straw homes. These are easy to assemble and dismantle. They are not as durable as previously mentioned shelters because they serve their purpose for a limited time only. If you are thinking of building something unique on that piece of land, consider any of these alternatives.
So that is alternative housing, and I think it's actually pretty good that we could actually display alternative housing and we can actually have it on ground. My question to you would be your views or your take on alternative housing. How do you think it can actually stand? Do you think it can actually work? Because what we saw there, the materials, everything being used, even some recycled products are used there.
Yes.
I don't know, what do you think?
Okay, so like I stated before we went on break, we have the Nigerian Building and Road Research Institutes, and its mandate is to provide affordable housing, affordable building materials, affordable technology, part of its mandate, locally sourced materials and like. So it has been able to develop the compressed stabilized earth bricks. Going forward, I'll be speaking about it as earth bricks, but the compressed earth bricks comprises of laterites, cement is for stabilization, water and sand, basically.
Okay.
And it is temperature-wise, it is very good for our region.
Okay.
And it has also been able to come up with the bamboo flooring, part of it, also the fiber roof tiles, which are locally sourced materials. Yes, they look locally, they use locally sourced materials. So in essence, we have places like that, and I believe that if the government puts in effort into commercializing, so one of the things that we could look at is having a body that all it does for the Nigerian Building and Road Research Institute is commercialize these products, because they have the research has been done. Standardization also needs to come into play. We need to standardize these products and make sure that it is something that is available in the market. A lot of people want to use these materials, but yes, no access,
okay,
right? So standardization of these materials and also the commercialization of these materials are key.
And they are affordable.
Oh yes,
but they are actually affordable.
So with time, when you standardize and commercialize, it becomes affordable. But presently, because it has been deployed, most of the projects that you see, the classrooms and go in the constituency projects that have been, that have been done, they utilize these products to come up with very affordable housing. The blocks, if you use the blocks, the stabilized earth bricks, you get a 40% decrease in price of walling. Okay. So it's actually affordable when you use the bricks, yes. But the issue is it is not being commercialized and it is not readily available.
And I don't think when it gets commercialized, it's going to be like skyrocketing way high up there.
No, so I believe that because it is when it's commercialized, there should be standards. There should be embargoes on price increments, and like if the government sees it fit.
Okay, so let's talk about the place of technology in housing. Where are we at in Nigeria? I must have to ask, where are we at?
Okay, so technology it actually goes side by side with development, right, in most developed climes. And I have seen houses being turned into smart buildings. Yes,
True.
where you have energy, and it makes it energy efficient, right?
Okay.
Because when you have a smart building, you go into a space, and then the light comes up, you go out and it goes off. It means that it's regulating the light and it's helping you save, So it's actually something that we need to employ more. right? And then it would, definitely help in technology has come in.
Because I love the idea of smart houses. It's
Yeah.
really, really, really peculiar and very unique.
Yeah.
As immediately as we have everything working on board, because you can have a smart house and you don't have power supply. You can have a smart house and you don't have all the basic necessities needed to even run the house, or else it's going to follow you one of these days. Okay, so my next question to you would be, like few months back, we've had situations where houses collapse and then we suffer loss of life. This is how I want to frame the question for you. To those out there that are not doing their duty, because I feel it's because they're not doing their duty, that is why they could go, get materials and just build anyhow. What would you love to say to them?
So, first and foremost, professionals must be carried along. It is very, very key that professionals are carried along.
True.
The reason is because, bulk of your problems are taken care of when you carry professionals along, right? However, like I stated, land acquisition, access to land is difficult, first. Then secondly, the materials that we use for construction are very, very expensive.
Okay.
So you find out that developers tend to cut corners. And because they tend to cut corners, you find they would rather put that money in whatever it is that they can, rather than to seek the knowledge of a professional that will guide them. So they go ahead, they develop, and then they get to a point where the building collapses. So the issue of building collapse is something that has been discussed far and wide in this country, and I believe that if we do it right, first and foremost, involve professionals. It is very, very important. If you involve professionals, I want to assure you that these things would stop.
True.
Because these professionals have license, and if you get the ones that have license, if they have or you have problems with them, you can report them to their body.
True.
Right? So you need to involve professionals. That's the major issue. That's the key thing that we need to do going forward.
All right then.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So before I get carried away, with the discussion, the phone lines are okay. The phone lines are buzzing, but before we take some messages, let's take this feature from Cecil on alternative housing.
Amanda is a level 10 civil servant and has managed to purchase a plot of land for her family of 5. But her worry is how to go about building the house. So much money is needed in building a fitting home. Her rent will be due in another 3 months. Her family may be relocating to another state soon. And then an idea strikes. Why not opt for an alternative to bricks and mortars, cabins and containers? The journey of these mobile and stylish homes starts from the ports. The goods are offloaded, and instead of discarding the containers, they are bought over by someone who has plans for them. And that means extra money for the importer. Architectural designs are made to turn these containers into homes and offices, and then construction begins. Destiny Atibi of Prefab World takes me through the process of converting an ordinary and sometimes rusty container or cabin into a comfortable housing. She says constructing these kinds of dwellings takes shorter time compared to conventional buildings, while it has the capabilities of bringing to life any building style. The cabin or container is measured to size. Steel frames set in place with bolts, doors, windows, and other openings are chiseled and installed. Because the container is metal and emits heat, it is insulated. This is one of the most important aspects of building a container home.
We have polystyrenes we use for insulations, That's for the container ones, the normal ISO shipping containers. We insulate them in such a way that it will reduce the temperature of the heat. Unlike the porter cabins, they are already factory insulated. We import them and everything has been done on them. But for the container ones, we manually modify them. We insulate them to suit purposes and make them comfortable. So to serve as same temperature with the normal block and mortar buildings.
Inside the wall, we have the water roof for the isolation. Later, I put the panel for internal. You understand?
Antonio Sanino has been working for a construction firm in Abuja for over a decade. He operates from this multiple container office complex. The architectural design here creates a 2-story building with a generous amount of spacing. He says this ground floor is achieved with 4 containers amounting to 120 square meters. The space is complete with a washroom.
Okay.
The toilet, no problem. Flushing. This material is very good because it's very neat for clean. It's very simple for maintain.
This is polyurethane panels. They are more like a sandwich panels. These panels we use for cooling. They retain heat, sound, and has a capacity of retaining fire. It's a fire resistance panel.
Okay, so this is the restroom.
Yes.
Let's have a look at what it's in.
So majorly it's like this until when we deliver, then we install the fittings. The toilet seater, the shower tray, holes and all that.
Cabins and container houses work better if a land space is available. Now Amanda knows what to do. Have a cabin or container home designed to her taste and within her budget, constructed and installed in her land, and when she's set to move, her home goes with her.
Okay, so alternative housing. I don't know about you, but I think I loved what I saw. But the question is, how glaring, how do you bring that to life currently in our situation? Joining us in the studio is Emeka Onoha, the chairman. He is an estate surveyor and is the chairman, National Institute of Estate Surveyors, Abuja chapter. Now, I want to throw that question to you, sir. Why do you think that may not be? Do you think that will be possible?
Well, anything is possible. Alternative housing is a solution. There are so many solutions to any problem, including housing.
Yes.
So it depends on the cost at the end of the day. If the cost is lower than the existing cost of the current construction model, then it will fly.
Okay.
So everything boils down to, at the end of the day, at what cost would you deliver the housing?
Okay. Yeah. And you think it's possible? That's the question.
Of course, it has been tried elsewhere.
Okay.
But in Nigeria, we seem to bring everything, we seem to import everything. Okay. And so they add to the cost.
All right. That's why we were, before you came in, that was why we were talking about cost, using our local materials, to do the stuff we want. Okay, so before we go on and continue, we have some messages already coming in, and The phone lines again is 081-1778-2020. Again, 081-1778-2020. And my first message is this. I was trying to tell Zuleika while we were on that somebody actually said the problem is our landlord. I don't know. Are they the ones that depict the prices? I mean, the amount of rent that comes in, the one that goes, because I think that tentatively that is what is happening. What do you think?
Okay, so because we don't have regulations, right, put in place as to how much property should go for. Now, the reason why these regulations are not put in place is because you have factors that also affect the procurement of these houses by the landlords, or the ownership of these houses by the landlords. So you find out that I get land for a certain amount of money, I build or I construct because construction materials are on the high side, right? So I need to go or make back my money. So what I'm looking at is possibly a 10-year plan, a 20-year plan, but I need to recoup my money. So they tend to increase the money. But some of them are false. Some of the increments actually are false. They might be determined by the location, the area where the building is being located. You find out that if you go to Maitama, for example, houses are exorbitantly high. Sometimes I wonder why, you know, they say it's the cost of land or cost of, but then obviously, like I said, no regulations on, you know, how we fix or how we put prices to what we do. So, yes.
Okay, so my next question is directed to you, sir. Who do we hold when we want, what's it called? Who do we hold responsible? Developers or the people that own the land?
There's a misconception.
Okay, please.
To say that the landlords are to be held responsible. Some people even say the estate agents should be held responsible.
Okay.
But you know, we're in a market economy, and everything is determined by demand and supply. It's as simple as that. So people venture into business to make profit.
Okay.
So if they spend a certain amount in building these houses, there is expected return from their investment.
Agreed.
And because there is a mismatch between demand and supply, that is why you have rising rents. So it's not really dictated by individuals. And let me also say that it's very difficult for government to even regulate it. Because you can only regulate what you can control.
I was actually coming to that.
You can't really regulate it.
Okay.
Some governments have tried in Nigeria and abroad, and it didn't work, and it cannot work. The only solution is to make it possible for more people to get involved in mass housing, the government to also intervene where they can intervene, to bring in more. So as supply increases, the prices will.
Okay, because I was going to ask you, the private developers with the government, can there be a balance? And you just explained that there can be a balance.
Yes, they can work together. As you know, the land in various states are controlled by the state governments. And because land is very expensive, the government can come together with private developers in order to see how to bring down the cost, as they are doing with Radar and some other private developers. You know, so there's need for the two sides to collaborate. You know, in addition to what they are doing on their own. So it's important. Yes.
All right. Before I read more questions, I really need to ask you this. As an estate surveyor, I know the journey would have been awesome, and there would have been some years. I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. What are those challenges the institute face when trying to, get a land, or trying to get people lands and then survey how because I was actually telling her that one of the reasons why we have houses falling down on people is because it's poor development and the developers, because they don't use the materials that are necessary. What are your thoughts on that?
You know, the Land Use Act is the law that controls everything concerning land. And it has given powers, like I said earlier, to the state governors. So the state governors are the ones that allocate land.
Okay.
And so any problem with land is domiciled from the procurement.
Okay. Starts from there.
So it's always difficult to procure land because you have to go through state governments, and the ones that are in individual hands that are expensive.
But should it be that way?
Well, it shouldn't be, and that is why our institution has made several cases to government to have the Land Use Act amended so that it will be easier for people to have access to land.
Okay.
The initial reason for bringing the whole land tenure system under one law in Nigeria was to make land easily available. But as we have seen, it hasn't worked that way.
All right then.
I don't know if it's a Nigerian factor, but it's not working. And there is a need to amend that law.
To amend that, okay. So hold your thoughts and we'll continue with you in a moment. So let's quickly take some messages that are coming in. This is from Barrister Chineye Emeka, and she says, can this structure be built in waterlogged or swampy environment? Can houses be built in waterlogged or swampy environments? Then two, how does it happen? I think I don't know.
I think that's the question. I think it's directed towards me. And of course, buildings or houses can be built on waterlogged areas, right? If you look at, so I'll go outside the country, places like Maldives, they build houses on stilts, on stanchions, and they're on, actually this is something that we've thought about, you know, going towards the riverine areas, going down south, the south where you have a lot of waterlogged, you know, areas. And we were saying one of the solutions that we feel should be looked at that side is to build on stilts. So yes, houses can be built yes,
and they will stand the test of time.
Absolutely.
Good.
Absolutely.
That's actually good.
Well, okay, you know, the entire Lagos is on
I wanted to say I wanted to say Lagos as a whole is on water. Yes.
Remarkable. Okay, so we have more messages coming in. I have this again. Why can't the government engage in low-cost housing to solve housing deficits?
Okay. Another one. So it's not that the government cannot engage. They have tried. The Federal Ministry of Works and Housing has actually, they initiated first and foremost the FISH, Federal Integrated Staff Housing, right? And then they also moved ahead to do the housing, one house, but they have not been able to, for me, right, bring the cost of the housing to what is accessible or what is not just accessible but what is affordable to the day or due to the normal Nigerian, right, the average Nigerian. You find out that the one bedroom goes for 7.2 million, which is a very high price, right? And it can go lower, just like he had said that, and I had stated earlier, if lands were being accessible, easily and readily accessible to developers, a lot of the headache will be cut. Yes.
Right. Okay, so I have another message from Ugo Ozumba from Guinea Conakry. Interesting. He was actually saying that if everything was left alone to developments, the Nigerian government cannot regulate it, and that was exactly what you reiterated. Or then he now said, or maybe the government can come in with soft loans to assist the developers, and by doing so, the cost will be efficient and reduced. How does that sound?
Absolutely.
Does that make sense?
That was, I mentioned mentioned something earlier regarding the mortgages and the shelter Afrique, right? So if we have more of that, definitely prices will go low.
Okay, so I'm still going. The messages are really coming in. Okay, the question is directed to you, but let me engage Chief first. Sir, estate surveying in, okay, let me use Abuja as our example. I would love to ask you, how has that been like? Trying, because you still find people building where they're not supposed to build. You still find people doing what they're not supposed to do. And years down the line, they will come crying foul when the government pulls down and there's, everything goes up there and then nobody can handle it. How difficult has it been doing your job in Abuja?
Is government doing what they're supposed to do? It's easy to blame one side. How about the other side?
Okay.
The Abuja was supposed to be developed by the federal government through Federal Capital Development Authority. And for years now, the government has virtually stopped developing the districts. So you find that because of the urban migration, everybody wants to come to Abuja, where they feel the opportunities are there for them and their families.
Okay.
So a lot of people are coming into Abuja and they need housing. And because government is not doing its own part of the bargain, people are now forced to go to the natives, get land allocated to them, and they build in connivance with even with the people in government control.
Okay, so please hold on. Let me read this to you, then you would continue. This person is asking, there's no names. Please stop calling. We would only read your messages. Thank you. Okay, so this person is asking, why can't our government help in making it possible for the poor masses to be able to afford a house? This has been a journey for them. It had, I think the person meant this has been what has been happening all along. So now we shouldn't actually be talking about no houses, poor man, access. We shouldn't be talking about access right now. Please.
Well, I must say that problem never ends.
I'm telling you.
So anyone who is thinking that the issue of housing will ever be resolved permanently is deceiving himself. Because even in the developed world, in the US, Britain, you still have issues of social housing that are not available for the low-income people.
Absolutely.
But the only difference is that you can see the effort they are making to solve the problem. Here, we do little at the wrong time. We don't do it as the need arises.
Okay.
So you have a very big gap between want and supply. And that's what is causing all this problem. That is what's causing slum development that you will have in all over the place.
Okay, so we still have some messages coming in. This is from Uyo. I think we believed we've talked about this, but he wanted to ask that is there no way governments can actually regulate house rent? Now, I don't know. Somebody was even trying to ask is it supposed to be a monthly thing or a yearly, annually? What do you think, sir?
Like I said before, you can regulate what you have. You can't. Government will not give me money to buy land.
Yes.
It will not give me money to buy building materials.
Okay.
It will not give me low finance rates to borrow money to build these things. And at the end of the day, you come and tell me how much rent I will.
But
it's not possible.
So those, initially I had stated all these things as solutions. I said if the government provided all these basic mortgages, access to loans, low risk, low percentage loans, and what have you, then they can say, okay, because we're giving you this There should be a certain cap as to how much you can go or how much, you shouldn't. But if these things are not provided, then it will be very difficult for the government to intervene.
Okay, because the way I see it is that, government is not giving me anything. I built my house. I must as well put a $3 billion whatever on it. Yes, but
no, but you don't have control over the amount you ask for your property. No, it's the market that determines.
The market determines
the
that.
market determines.
Okay, so for
our market is determined by demand and
forces,
supply.
Okay,
forces.
Okay, so for our poor simple folks, what do they do?
That is why the government is there.
Yes, the government needs to provide these things that we just stated. Once the government provides these things, then the masses will be taken into consideration a lot.
Let me ask you, I'm sure you're living in your house, a relative. Yes, I want to believe you're living in your own built house. But if you had the option to choose, would you like to pay monthly, annually, or yearly? Like it is done currently.
That is yearly, yes, annually, right?
What would you prefer?
Well, it depends. I think I always state that it's relative. For me, I would always prefer the annually, right, which is the yearly.
Okay.
But it's relative depending on your income. There are people that have income that comes in, monthly, and you rather reduce it as they go. Yes, but there are some that would rather wait because of how their income comes in, and they pay annually.
And you don't think that's a factor that is making house rent on an increase? If you decide to, because some people earn monthly, some people is even like 2-3 months, sometimes it's 5 months. So don't you think that would actually affect the rent increase? Because if money is not coming in and landlord needs money and he goes ahead, okay, he wants to get somebody else, let somebody else come in, and he increases it, isn't that a problem?
Please, when you have a 30,000 minimum wage, what can you do with it?
My point exactly.
What can you do with it? So that's why I keep saying that the solution lies in both government and the private sector.
All right, then.
Let the government do what it needs to do. The wage level in Nigeria is very low vis-a-vis the inflation and the cost
that
of things.
Okay, so good day. I think government giving lands and later to resell is one of the major reasons of high cost of land and housing. Sir, is that true?
I don't understand that question.
Okay, so what he's trying to say is that when people want to buy lands, I think you explained that. Yes, when people want to get lands and they go to the states owning lands and then selling, they give to they sell to people that comes like highest bidder, so to say. You don't think that's the reason why lands are expensive, or for people?
Okay, so I think what he was saying, or what the question is that the issue for him or for her is title deeds documents are given to individuals. Now these individuals that get them resell them, and because they resell them, they increase the prices, and they
he just sent the latter part of the message. He's asking, can't government directly sell lands to individuals?
No.
Why would they need to go? I don't know. It doesn't work that way.
Government gives allocations. That is actually what it is. So it's allocation.
Okay.
And allocations are being given. You go to you fill in a form, right? And then you request for land allocation, and they're being given to you. That is the only thing government does.
It does.
That is the way it's supposed to work. But
so malpractices.
Your application, you can wait for
so the thing is, malpractices are bound to happen in some crimes, right? So and that is what he's stating, that because of these malpractices, of course, you go in with your application, and your application stays there for ages before it comes out.
Okay, so my question is the malpractice. How do we nip it in the bud? And that would be your final thoughts.
Yes.
Please. How do we nip it in the bud? Because it can't continue.
Well,
the final thoughts, sir.
Like I said, the government has its own role to play. They are the one with the yam, and they are the one with the knife. And at the same time, they shouldn't run away from their responsibility. If they have an arrangement with a developer, for example, to do site and services, they should agree the cost that the developer cannot go over. But the problem is that they don't do it. And then people will take advantage, and because of the huge demand for this plant, they sell it at very high cost. So if the government is not interested in controlling what is happening there, there's nothing people outside can do.
Wow. Please, your final thoughts on that too.
Okay, so like I stated, there are lists of things that we should do. First and foremost, the government needs to be in charge of the access to land. They need to provide access to land, right? Like he stated, we have two parts to this. There's the government part, and there's also the private part. So there needs to be a point where they meet, and the government needs to play a very, very vital role in this aspect, or this part of...
all right then. Okay, so that's all we have for you on the medley today. Thank you so much for making this particular episode a fantastic one. I really learned a lot, and I am so humbled. And that's how much we can take. We will be coming your way again, same time next week. Stay safe, everyone.